For almost a decade, we watched her grow up. We saw a scared, quiet kid blossom into a powerhouse, a loyal friend, and a young woman who, after all that suffering, finally found a family. Eleven's journey was the absolute heart of Stranger Things. It was a story about finding love in the darkest of places, building a family from scratch, and fighting like hell to protect it. Every single thing, from season 1 all the way to the final season, was building toward one single choice. And when that moment finally came, the writers didn't just fumble it, they chucked it into another dimension. They shattered years of character development with an ending that wasn't just nonsensical, it was a betrayal of everything Eleven ever stood for. This wasn't some heroic sacrifice or a hard-earned peace. It was a cheap, ambiguous twist that completely ignored the emotional truth of its most iconic character. They spent 5 seasons building a hero, only to have her abandon everything that made her one in the final hour. Let's rewind for a second. Who is Eleven? At her core, from the moment she walked into Mike Wheeler's basement, her entire motivation was connection. This was a girl who was literally just a number, stripped of her identity, who learned what love was from a pack of nerdy kids and a grieving, broken cop. Her powers were never just a weapon, they were how she protected the first people who ever showed her kindness. In season 1, she sacrificed herself to save Mike, Dustin, and Lucas from the Demogorgon. In season 2, she defied Papa to come back to Hawkins and close the gate, saving Will and the whole town. Season 3 took her powers away, but she still stood up to the Mind Flayer and even inspired Billy to find his own redemption. And in season 4, she went through the hell of the Nina Project, reliving her worst traumas, all to get back to her friends and save them from Vecna. The pattern is crystal clear. Eleven's story was never about escaping. It was about running towards the fight, as long as it meant her family was safe. Her home wasn't a place, it was people. Mike, Hopper, Will, Max, Dustin, Lucas, Joyce. They were her anchor. Her entire journey was a war against being alone. Every single choice she made screamed one thing. She would rather die with her family than live without them. The promise, heading into the finale, was that her final act would be the ultimate proof of that love. The final battle was as epic as we'd hoped. The Upside Down had become a wormhole to a realm called the Abyss, and Vecna was trying to merge it all with Hawkins. The party unites for one last stand. Eleven, with her powers blazing, fights Vecna inside the Mind Flayer's monstrous form. Will uses his own connection to distract Vecna just long enough for El to strike. And then, in a moment of pure, cathartic rage, Joyce Byers grabs an axe and decapitates Henry Creel, ending his reign of terror for good. The nightmare is over, but as the heroes escape back to the right side up, the military closes in, ready to capture Eleven and throw her back into the cycle of labs and experiments she's been running from her whole life. And this is where it all goes sideways. In a heartbreaking scene, Elle makes what looks like the ultimate sacrifice. She shoves Mike back through the portal, shares a silent, tearful goodbye, and stays behind as explosives go off, seemingly consumed in the blast that seals the Upside Down forever. It's tragic, it's heroic, it's devastating, but it fits her character perfectly. It's the final act of protection. For a minute, it felt like a painful, but fitting, ending. But that's not what we got. We got a cheap magic trick that completely undercut her sacrifice and destroyed her legacy. The epilogue jumps forward 18 months. The gang is playing one last game of D&D before they all head off to college. The mood is heavy, they're still grieving Elle. Then Mike, as the dungeon master, suggests a different story. He floats a theory. What if Kaylee, Elle's sister who was shot and killed in the final battle, used her last breath to cast an illusion? What if the 11 they saw die was just a projection, one last trick to fake her death so the real 11 could finally be free? As he says this, we cut to a lone figure in the stunning empty landscapes of Iceland. It's 11, alive. The group tearfully agrees, I believe. This isn't a beautiful, hopeful ending. It's a complete character assassination. For her entire story to end with her abandoning every single person she loves is a monstrous betrayal of who she was. The heart of her character was her fierce, unbreakable loyalty. This is the girl who would rather face interdimensional monsters than be separated from her people. But the finale wants us to believe she chose to be separated from them forever. She let Hopper, the father who moved heaven and earth for her, believe she was dead. She let Mike, her first friend and first love, grieve her for the rest of his life. That isn't a hero's choice. It's a profoundly selfish and cruel act disguised as freedom. The writer's excuse, she had to disappear to finally be safe, but that logic completely falls apart. Vecna was dead, the Upside Down was sealed, The immediate threat was gone. The idea that her only option was to run and hide in Iceland is just absurd. Her family, the most powerful support system you could imagine, had just won a war for reality itself. They would have protected her. Instead, she regresses, choosing the exact isolation she fought for years to escape. Her journey was about finding a home, only for her to abandon it the second the war was over. So why would the Duffer Brothers do this? In post-finale interviews, they were pretty clear about it. They said there was never an ending where Eleven was there playing D&D with the others. Matt Duffer explained that for the writers, Eleven represents the magic of childhood, and for the other characters to grow up, she possesses these incredible powers, so you're leaving that behind. That one statement shows the whole problem. They stopped seeing Eleven as a character and started seeing her as a symbol. She wasn't Jane Hopper, a person with her own history and motivations anymore. She was just a narrative device called childhood magic that had to be thrown away so the other kids could become adults. It's an insultingly simple way to look at their own creation. Audiences didn't spend years falling in love with a metaphor. We invested in a girl who fought for her right to have a normal life, a father, a boyfriend, friends. By reducing her to a symbol, the writers fundamentally misunderstood what made her so powerful. To have her toss all that away for a lonely life in Iceland isn't poetic. It's a tragedy born from writers who cared more about a flimsy theme than the integrity of their own hero. Ross Duffer even said that in looking at other great series finales, the best ones stayed true to what they were. It seems they forgot their own advice. But hey, that's just my take. This ending split the fandom right down the middle. For every person who felt betrayed, there's someone who found it beautiful. So, what do you think? Was Eleven's escape to Iceland a poetic ending that finally gave her freedom? Or was it a total betrayal of the hero she became? Drop your unfiltered thoughts in the comments below. Stranger Things gave most of its characters a sense of closure. They got to go to college and start new lives, forever linked by what they went through. But the one character who started it all, the very soul of the show, was left with nothing. Instead of a heroic death or a life with her family, she was written out by a weak plot device. They took a character defined by love and loyalty and twisted her into someone who would abandon her family. They took a story about finding a home and ended it with the hero running away from it. The problem wasn't that Eleven left, it's that they made her do it in a way that made no sense for her character, leaving a giant gaping hole where the heart of the show used to be. For a series that was always about sticking together, it's an infuriating and deeply unsatisfying finish. They didn't just end Eleven's story, they ruined it.